Hey, how we doing? How we doing? Welcome, guys, to the SPACs attack here. Got to lower my volume for the other YouTube there. All right, how we doing, guys? Welcome to the SPACs attack show here. I got my sidekick with me, Chris Katje here. This is the man with the plan. Oh, pointing the wrong arrow there. There you go. That's the guy here. All right, guys, how we doing? Welcome to the show, guys. This show is everything about SPACs, and the reason we're doing this show is to get you guys the information that you guys need to go ahead and make your informed decisions. So let's go ahead and introduce the man with the brains here. That's Chris right here, Chris Katje. How you doing today, Chris?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Doing great. Ready for another day in this market. And you know how it is. There's always an opportunity out there. So let's go ahead and let's get into the show directly here. Let's get into the notable headlines of the day. There's quite a couple. So fill us in, Chris. What's going on out there?
Yeah, so after several days of no real deals in the SPAC market, we had a deal announced this morning. So it was rumored last night. JWS Acquisition Corp, symbol JWS. This is a big one that people have been watching. They announced their merger with Cano Health this morning, a primary care-centric technology company. They operate with Medicare Advantage. They're the fastest growing primary care provider in the U.S. by Inc. magazine for the second year. They sit number 39 on the Inc. 5000 list. They also do home visits, telehealth. So JWS Acquisition was started by Barry Sternlicht. He's a notable real estate investor, but he wanted to do a SPAC in an industry that didn't compete with his business. And he also wanted something not tied to currency rates or trade wars. So he was led to healthcare. The company has 103,000 members in 14 markets, which includes Texas and Florida. They're also expanding to other states. They're a partner with Humana, United Healthcare, Anthem. Humana is also a 5% shareholder in the company. The deal was done at $4.4 billion valuation. Company expects revenue of $1.45 billion next year. They've seen annual growth of 73% for revenue. And the CEO today on CNBC said that revenue is going to grow by $1 million a day next year, which is pretty exciting for the company. Yesterday, we saw a former SPAC Multiplan, MPLN. Their shares got hammered. They were the subject of a short report from Muddy Waters. So Muddy Waters called out the company, said that they're actually going to lose their top customer, United Healthcare, which represents 35% of revenue. United Health is launching Navigard, which would be a competing company to Multiplan, according to Muddy Waters. So shares hit all the way down to 620 yesterday. They closed at 7, down 20% for the day. Multiplan today on their earnings call, they said the allegations are false. Navigard is not a competitor, and that the companies are expanding their relationship, which actually caused shares to move up in the pre-market. But as you can see now, they are going back down. So it seems like investors were not, all relieved by those comments. And again, if they lose that customer, which is a major part of their revenue, that could be, big trouble for them. We also had another deal rumored last night. It has not been confirmed yet, but Microvast, which is an electric vehicle battery company, is possibly merging with Tuscan Holdings, THCB. Now, this would be notable because Tuscan Holdings was actually in their filing said that they were going to hit the cannabis market. So you have another cannabis SPAC shifting to electric vehicles, which we have seen a couple times. Microvast does not have a ton of news on their website. They do have a contract with U.S. Auto Research, which is Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler, for their battery development. They also work on batteries for electric city buses in countries like China. They have a manufacturing facility in Germany coming out, which will start production in March 2021, which would also boost their production. And then this morning, we had HYLN report their first public quarter earnings since completing that SPAC deal. So that SPAC deal closed in October. Company got $520 million in net proceeds. So not a lot of news on the report this morning. So investors actually set shares down. They announced they installed 8 hybrid electric units for 4 fleet-based customers. They signed a deal with FEV North America to accelerate their commercialization of Hypertruck ERX, which is going to be their future product. This company already has deals in place with Ryder, Penske, Eagle Transport, ideally CR England. On their conference call this morning, they said they are finalizing several deals and there is strong interest in their solution. So again, you didn't get a lot of that news that investors were expecting, but the conference call, really helped investors not worry so much because shares were down big this morning. And if you pull up that chart now, they are actually only down 4% for the day. So again, investors didn't get the numbers they wanted. But as I discussed yesterday, it's not about the revenue right now. It's all about those future contracts. This is going to be a company that you want to be in for the long term.
Yeah, this
and that's
is
headlines for today.
Yeah, Chris, I definitely agree with you on HYLN. This is one that I think just the hype got way too early in the stock, and that happens all the time. With speculators and people that just want to take positions on anything that's ripping. As we see, I think this one is trying to find a bottom here, and we're going to go into our watch list here. So this one's actually a part of our watch list. So before we break this down technically, let's go ahead and let's get into our watch list here. All right, guys. So with HYLN, you can clearly see a bottoming here in this $22 price point. I'm going to definitely keep an eye on this one. With the earnings that came out, they weren't the best, but like Chris said, I think people are paying attention to different things and different stories in these kind of stocks. At the end of the day, they're looking for kind of what is to come. Is EV here to stay? I personally think so. So you're going to keep an eye on these, and let's see if it holds that kind of 20 area. I would like for it to test it again, and before I, kind of get more in a bullish stance in this stock. But definitely, you're starting to see some bottoming action. I would like to see a volume spike going closer towards that 20 and seeing if we can get back up above that 24, 25 price area. All right, so let's take a look here at some other ones in our watch list. Some other ones that we have here. Let's go into let's use our Benzinga Pro to let us know what's up and what's not here, guys. So what's moving today? Looks like Fisker is on the move here, guys. We're up almost 9% here, almost 10%. Do you have any news here on Fisker? Or what's going on, Chris?
I don't have any new news, similar to what we talked about yesterday. That's that electric vehicle pure play. They finally completed that SPAC deal. There's a lot of interest in that name. It is getting a lot of attention, CNBC and from the company. So it looks like investors are buying that story and want a piece of this pure play electric vehicle company.
Yeah, if you could see it here technically, guys, I'm going to go ahead and go full screen for you guys so you guys can really see here. We're getting multiple tries to break out here, guys. Multiple attempts to go up here. You got 1 resistance, 2 resistance, 3 resistance. It kept holding this 14, and you can see it this morning, guys. It came down to that level, and boy, did it turn around from that level. Now up there to the 15s. It looked like we got to pull back towards this 1470 area, kind of this resistance here. Let's see if this one can get back above 1550 on the day, go and break this high up here, and that's when I'll be looking to see if we can get some more volume to let it continue on up. All right, guys, let's get into some more of our watch list here, guys. If you guys like what you guys are seeing, definitely go ahead and hit the like down below. Hit the subscribe. We're going to do this every single day for you guys. At the end of the day, this is why we're doing it. We're doing it for you guys so that you guys can see the SPACs that are moving, get the information you need to keep making your trading decisions. So let's go ahead and go to another stock here. All right, guys, let's get into what we got here. We got, oh, look, your JWS is doing well today. So we talked about that one, but let's go a little bit further here. We got VLDR up about a percentage here. Let's take a look at the watch list here. See what we got here on the daily chart. You're starting to get some bottoming action here in the 13 area. A couple resistance tries up here at 15. I think you really just need to see some volume come back in this stock before kind of the bulls and bears gain control. Kind of looks like the HYLN chart if you compare it. Very similar charts here. So those are ones that what I look to do as a trader is look for volume, because at the end of the day, that's what we need to really start breaking through price levels and multiple resistance or support, whichever way you're heading. Volume is usually the driver that gets us through those levels. So we'll see if this one's can find some support and get back up here. All right, let's continue here with our watch list here. Taking a look here at one that I like. SEAH here. This is Sports Entertainment Acquisition Corp. If you guys know the sports industry, it's been held closely for a long time by ESPN. And personally, I think that at the end of the day, I think they're on the decline, not really, getting new content, being innovative. You see Fox Sports step up to the plate. What's going on with this Sports Entertainment Acquisition Corp, Chris?
Yeah, so there's been several sports SPACs that have launched. Again, this is a huge industry, sports media, ownership of sports teams, all that growth. So this company was started by a couple people who have history within the major sports. So you have Eric Grubman, who was the former vice president of business for the NFL. You have John Collins, who was chief operating officer for the NHL for 9 years. Collins he ran On Location Experience, which was acquired by Endeavor for $660 million. You have another Natara Holloway, who was also an NFL person from 2014 till the SPAC launch. And then the other notable name with the SPAC is Timothy Goodell, who is Roger Goodell's brother, the commissioner of the NFL. So you do have a connection to the NFL. You also have a connection to the NHL. This is a company that's looking, for something in the sports business. It could be media, could be hospitality, with the arenas or stadiums, but you've got some experience there with these major sports. So I think this is one people should be watching. And again, it's below that $10 price point. So you also have an opportunity there with it below its pricing.
Yeah, what I can say about this one is that, I've done a lot of research into my SPACs, and I realized that, we do get these pops, but what I'm looking for, at least on my side, is for a hold above $10. I think that's so vital. If they get below that 9, I've seen them go to let's say 980s, 975, and even some are breaking down now. But majority of the times, what I'm looking for is a 2-day hold above that $10 price point to show me that the investors are really kind of loading up the boat and getting into the stock. Just because I just want to put that out there, because it's a pattern that I notice, and I always recommend, if you notice some patterns, start looking at it under the charts, start testing it, see if if you're finding something that most probably aren't. All right, let's go ahead and go into the last one from the watch list here. Let's go into Tattoo Chef. The reason why I would go into Tattoo Chef here is, this is one that, it's really has some competition out there. And if you compare it to let's say the big boy, Beyond Meat, the evaluation is definitely at a discount comparable to Beyond Meat. So what do you think about this Tattoo Chef, Chris?
I love this company going forward. I love that industry, the plant-based food. You saw Beyond Meat get hit this week. Tattooed Chef shares have actually been trading higher, but they're still below that level they saw before the SPAC deal closed. So I think there's an opportunity there. We talked yesterday about their earnings, triple-digit growth. They're seeing their own brand sales stronger than that private label. So they started where they were making these plant-based foods for retailers under those retailers' brand names, and now they're really launching that brand name for themselves, really getting Tattooed Chef out there. They had a $1.4 million promotional deal with a big box retailer, either Costco or Sam's Club, during the quarter. Their products are in Costco. They're seeing strong sales there. If you ever follow the symbol on Twitter, you will see people, share photos, it flying off the shelf. And then yesterday, Tattooed Chef themselves promoted that they are in Target stores again. Target, one of the leading retailers. That plant-based food, healthy food, I think really appeals to that demographic of those Target shoppers. So I think that's a strong one for them. Also notable that they talked on their earnings call that they launched their e-commerce platform about 2 weeks before they filed that earnings report. So those results will really not show off that online sales, but you're really going to see that bump up possibly in the next quarter report.
Yeah, so what I'm looking at in this chart, you guys see me drawing out here. You can clearly see kind of this downward pennant here on the chart. You got this downward action, heavy volume, and then you get a bounce, a couple tests to support. And what I'm liking now is that you've gotten about 3 tests to break down through this level, this 1729. And usually when we get about usually when we get this third test, what I'm looking for now is, can it break above the resistance with some volume to start trying to get back up to the resistance? So much down pressure. If it doesn't break, it usually goes and tries to test. Let's say if it's heading on the downside, heading to support, it usually will come back up and test that resistance. So that's what I'm going to definitely keep an eye on this one. Tattooed Chef is definitely getting some bottoming action there. So I would want to see it get above the 1780 area, head towards 18 with some strong volume, maybe a catalyst to help it here. And then you could potentially see this one, get a nice lift here. All right, guys, let's get out of this full screen here and go back to us here, guys. All right, so let's go into one of the best parts of this show is really all about you guys. I mean, this is what we do this for. So let's give a shout out to some of the people that we have in the chat today. All right, so definitely want to give a shout out to, let's see, we got Richard in the house, Melody, Mike, Andrew. What's going on? How we doing, guys? Thank you guys for being loyal and sticking with us every single day. This is what it's about. We're here to go back and forth. We'll definitely be taking questions from our chat and going over the stocks that you guys want to talk about. All right, so let's go ahead and get into one of those. We actually got a question yesterday about SFT. So that's what we're going to go into right now. Let's get into that. So before we do that, let's unlock things here, guys. All right, guys, unlocking here, and let's go ahead and go to Chris to find out more about SFT here.
Yeah, so we got that question yesterday about SFT. So it's Shift. They are a former SPAC. So they are in that online car buying industry. This is a growing e-commerce market to buy and sell used cars. I wanted to highlight that today because we have Shift, a former SPAC, and then we also have a current SPAC that announced a deal in that same industry that we'll get to after we hit on Shift. So Shift already has some analyst ratings out since they completed that deal. So you have price targets of $18, $15, and $16 from analysts. Their revenue was up 30%, they said, in the third quarter. That was pre-release numbers. They are going to report earnings tonight, so after market close. So if this is one you're watching, you want to stay tuned tonight. Again, see what those revenue numbers are and kind of hear what they want to talk about. So they're focused on the 4-plus-year-old market for vehicles, which is 75% of their sales. They're the largest in the peer group for percent on that industry. They're also focused on the $10,000 to $20,000 price market. So again, competing with those peer companies, and they're trying to establish their own market. The used car market is $841 billion, but it is so fragmented. So the top 100 dealers in the U.S. only make up a 6% market share. Person-to-person sales are 50%. E-commerce is less than 1% for this market. So you've seen other industries grow tremendously in e-commerce. Grocery is up to 9%. Apparel is up to 32%. So Shift wants to increase their market penetration and their geographic expansion. In October, they announced they're expanding to Washington. In November, they announced they're expanding to Texas. So that company is going to grow as they hit other markets and as the e-commerce market grows overall. The other company I want to highlight, though, is Acamar Partners Acquisition Corp, so symbol ACAM. They are merging with Car Lots. So this is another play on that e-commerce market in cars. They're going public at an $827 million valuation. Shareholders are going to own 27% of the new company, which is on the higher side for a SPAC deal, which you always like to have that skin in the game. So shareholders are going to get a decent size of this compared to the backers and the PIPE deal. Rick Wagner, who is the former CEO of General Motors, he is one of the investors in this deal. CarLotz is the only one to offer consignment model to the retail sales business in the industry. They have 8 hubs which cover all 50 states. So again, you have Shift expanding to other states. CarLotz is already there. They have what sounds like a super low market share of 0.02%, but again, in that fragmented market is actually decent. They plan on growing revenue 145% on an annual basis from 2020 to 2023. So this year, $110 million in revenue estimated. That's expected to grow to $356 million next year and $945 million by 2022. Compared to Shift, Carvana, and Vroom and CarMax, all their peer group, they have the lowest customer acquisition cost and the highest margin per unit of that peer group. So again, when you talk valuation, you talk the financials, this one I think is going to be a hot one going forward. So I'm not saying Shift is not a good one, but this would be the one I prefer in that industry. And again, I think car buying and selling will shift to e-commerce, not just because of the pandemic, but because every other industry has. And these are 2 plays on that industry that both are SPACs.
Yeah, I'm pulling up the Carvana chart here. You can definitely see there. Let me pull the BZ off so you can see right quick. But you see a bottoming action on this chart. I think just pay attention to the kind of the bigger stocks in this industry, and then also keep an eye on it. You see these ripping through the tops. Then take a look at the SPACs that are in this industry, and maybe you find what I call the lagger play. And this is very important, guys. I always talk about story, and story is everything to me. So what I'm looking for sometimes is not necessarily the stock itself, but I'm looking for other plays in the industry to get hot and then bring some interest to my stock. And this is what I do, especially when you have like a high flyer, like a Carvana, or let's say in the car industry, there was a point when Nikola Motors was ripping through the tops. And instead of going for the Nikola Motors stock that was the high flyer, I went for the lagger play and found my workhorse. So that's why I recommend definitely, guys, find the lagger play. Look for what's moving. Always be with the trends. Socially, trends definitely drive stocks, and you're seeing that in this kind of online car industry world. So let's go ahead and let's get into the best part of the day, guys. This is really where we go and get back to you guys and why we're here, guys. So let's go into ticker time. Ticker time is what we're here for. Let's go ahead and let's start that up. All right, guys. So let's go ahead and let's get some tickers in the chat here. I'll go ahead and I'll pull them from our chat here. Let's see what we got here. We're going to first try to hit some SPACs, and then we can go a little bit more free time into different stocks. And so before I get into that, it looks like we got a question here from Juan. What do I mean by a lagger? What I mean by a lagger is one that hasn't made the move just yet. A lot of the times you're going to get stocks that kind of rip out in the industry. Let's say if it was e-commerce, let's say if you got a really good earnings report from Amazon rips on up, I would go ahead and look for other e-commerce plays to get hot, for the interest to go into that industry. So that's what I mean by the lagger play. All right, so let's get into this ticker time. I got some stocks here. We got a couple. Looks like we got IPOC. We went over that one yesterday. Want to go to some new ones here. Let's see what we got here. Let's go into Lordstown Motors. We got some ride talk here, Melody. We'll go right into this one. It looks like she's saying that they're being sued or how it will impact the stocks. One thing I can say, and we can pull up this chart here. Let's go to ride first. So with this stock, a lot of it's going to depend on what's going to happen with the USPS contract. I know a lot of the investors just have their eyes on that. That's kind of the main driver, and not only in this stock, but it's really going to drive WKHS. But what we have seen is that this stock is really riding kind of a close relationship with ride. Days that you usually see WKHS up, usually seeing also ride. So I think you got to keep an eye on both companies to find out what happens with that USPS. And at the end of the day, it becomes kind of a binary event. And what do I mean by a binary event? Is that it's either going to, probably get the contract, start boosting up there, or it could also be that they don't get the contract, or they get very little of the contract, and then you see these stocks kind of their value just fall to the ground. So this is kind of more of, to me, a binary event here. All right, so let's go ahead and let's go to the tickers here. Let's see what else we got in the chat. Looks like we got one here. I'm looking at LC. Oh, there you go. We got a couple of them here. We got a couple here. Let's go into this one here. Do you know anything about BYDDY? All right, let's go ahead and pull this one up here. I don't know too much about this one. Chris, do you know anything about this OTC one here? See what I can find out here. This was the great thing of Benzinga Pro, is that we always have what the company's about here. It looks like we have a Chinese automotive electronic manufacturing company organized into 3 segments. So you're seeing kind of that Chinese automobile play here, electronics. Let's take a look at the chart. Let's see what the chart tells us. All right, gonna pull this off. Gonna go full screen for you here. So definitely going through the roof, man. For an over-the-counter traded stock, you definitely see some investments, but you also see what? These gaps. What do these gaps are? These gaps are essentially kind of the volatility in this stock and it being less liquid and not on the major exchanges. Personally, I would stay away from this stock, but that's always up to you guys and what you guys find is your best trade. And I always say stick to your plan. If you find something that works for you, go ahead and stick to it. All right, let's go out to another one in the chat here. Let's see what we got here in the chat. Looking like we got one LCA. LCA, that's not a bad one to talk about. Lacania Holdings here, sports gambling play here. What do you know about this one, Chris?
Yeah, so this is a sports betting play. I love the sports betting industry right now. I've covered DraftKings, FanDuel, a lot of those companies heavily at Benzinga. This isn't one of my favorite SPACs, and the reason why is Lancadia, the company behind it, is just taking one of their own units public via a SPAC. And to me, I just don't love the way that's working out, where normally you have these SPACs look for other companies that they were not previously involved with. So I don't love that because I think it's going to come with some heavy debt loads, as a way to get rid of that. The thing I do like is they do have entry into 5 or 6 markets already with deals in place for states that have legalized online sports betting. This is also a play on the election. Louisiana just legalized sports betting, which you're not going to see until next year. This company with the company they're merging with, so Golden Nugget Online, they do have access to that market in Louisiana. They're one of several companies. So again, they could win, from that deal. This just isn't one of my favorites just because of the way the SPAC deal went down. But sports betting, it's a huge one. This stock was added to the sports betting ETF, symbol BETZ. And I trust those guys. We've interviewed them before for Benzinga. So they see something there. So this is a pure play on the sports betting. There aren't a lot of them. You have DraftKings, but otherwise a lot of them, have land-based casinos or other parts of their industry. This is a pure play on online sports betting going forward.
Yeah, what I would say is, look at this support that's holding up here, guys. We had this kind of breakout back in September. You get these levels up here, it starts holding up, creating a resistance level here. Then when we came back to the $10 level and then we ripped above that, looks like we keep coming back near those levels here, near that $12 into the 1150 area. So those are the kind of the areas that I look for when I'm trying to get in. At the end of the day, if I'm trying to long a stock, I want to try to get in on supports so that I can sell into the rips. We talk about this often on pre-market prep. If you guys haven't watched our pre-market prep show, definitely hit the subscribe below, hit the bell, and join us every single morning. That's a trading show with Spencer, Joel Elconin, Dennis Dick. They go over trading ideas every single morning. And, this is one that Dennis believes in. So if you wanted to find out a little bit more about LCA, definitely check out pre-market prep. All right, guys. So you see this bottoming action is what I'd be looking for. And now you see this kind of lower volume here. This is another thing that I really pay attention to. So the declining volume here just shows to me that there's probably no bear that's stepping up here trying to knock it through this $12 level, because I would look for a spike in volume here. But what I want to see is another spike with a good catalyst come into the stock. So this 14 is going to be very vital. If it can get back above that 14 with some good volume, maybe a spike like this or something that you saw over here in this volumes, that's kind of what I'll be looking for in LCA. All right, guys, let's see into the chat. Let's see if there's one more that we can do here. Looks like we got a lot from one person here. Want to go ahead and give them a shout out here. Looks like there's some EV plays that are definitely moving. XPEV, Solo, FSR, some plays here. Let's take a look at some of this. This is not exactly in the area, but let's take a look at Solo. I guess it's moving with electric vehicles. So let's take a look here. All right, so I'm going to pull this up full screen here for you guys can see this chart. Someone mentioning Solo in the chat. So look at this, guys. Look at this. This looks like a very volatile stock. You see these kind of spikes in the action. This just goes to show you that you got to be careful. You don't want to get caught buying into highs, and then next thing you know, the next day it's down at $4 when you bought it up at $5.50 or $6. So always look for supports on stocks like this to control your risk, and that's always going to help you. They had a major kind of resistance here that eventually became support here. And so always know your levels. This is why I kind of go through this and on the charting, is that if you know your levels, you'll be able to find where support is, and then you at least can measure your risk. I always talk about measuring risk, and risk management is really the best way to start as a beginner trader. If you're new out there, you have to manage your risk every single day, especially in the day trading community, because if you're in the day trading community, you can't let just one day make or break you. That's definitely my recommendation here. We'll keep an eye on this Solo. Definitely one thing you do see though here is kind of lower volume, and a higher volume yesterday when it was starting to kind of pop back up. Those are good signs. If we take a look here, you'll see kind of the volume going down, and then a volume spike. I would like to see this continue throughout the day and give us some more volume as it reaches through these highs, this 450. All right, guys, that's going to be it for us today, guys. Thank you guys again for joining us. Tell your friends about this show. That's really what we're doing it. We're doing it to get you guys information. So if there's a SPAC that you guys want to see, leave it in the comments below. We're going to do this daily, every single day at 11 a.m. So definitely subscribe with us and stay with us. Thank you again, Chris. You're the real man with the brains here. So appreciate you always sticking with us, Chris. And any final words, Chris?
I will hit on XPEV that someone mentioned in the chat. That was an IPO earlier this year. That's a China electric vehicle play. If you pull up that on Pro, they did report earnings today. They announced a huge spike in vehicle revenue, up 376%. This is one I actually bought at the IPO. I've sold it since. I made a profit, but I probably got out too early and jumped the gun on this one. This one could be a runner, huge in that electric vehicle market. And again, there's several companies, in China competing for those sales, but there's lots of room, to get a piece of that pie. So I know a couple of people asked about that one in the chat. That's kind of my thoughts here. And we wrap that up. Let's cover some more tickers tomorrow. So again, just leave them in the chat. We'll go back through. Maybe one of these days we can just cover a bunch of tickers all at once. I know we only get to a couple at the end of the show, but we appreciate all the comments, guys. Please like the video. Please tune in every day. Please tell your friends. We'd like to keep this going, so we need to get some likes. We need to get the subscribers up on Benzinga. We also have a lunchtime show that starts at 12:10 with our founder and CEO, Jason Raznick, and Hot Stocks Luke. They do some trade ideas. And then, as Mitch said, there's that pre-market prep show, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern time. So we've got a couple different vehicles here for you guys to check out, kind of get some insight into stuff, and also some trade ideas. That's really what we're trying to focus on with these live channels. And we're really all about the engagement. So we don't ignore your comments. We see them all. We'll try to get to as much as we can going forward. It's a work in progress. We're going to have some great hosts coming in, some CEOs and some industry leaders. If there's anyone you guys think we should interview, go ahead and drop that in the comments as well. So thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely, guys. We're definitely getting some love out there from the chat, and we appreciate you guys showing it. We'll be here tomorrow. Like always, guys, SPACs attack, guys. The SPACs attack.
Thanks, guys.